I can now. Wow, that audio is good. How's life?
Yes, good. Good, good, good. Life is
Yeah,
good.
wonderful. I was looking forward to the brick walls. The apartment's got like an awesome flair to it. What's this?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm like literally in a phone booth at the co-work space that I'm at.
Nice. Which co-working space is it?
Shoreditch Exchange in London.
Everyone's at a Shoreditch Exchange these days. Is it the one in Hoxton?
Yes, correct. That's the one. Yeah,
Good
that's the one.
vibes. Great
That's the one
place.
that, yeah, that's the one that has the startup community attached to it. Are you drinking yerba mate, by
I
the way?
do. Of course, I've got the
My
yerba.
favorite drink. Yeah,
I can't get
yeah, yeah.
enough of it. What's your favorite blend?
Oh, I actually the cheapest one from Amazon. That's my favorite blend.
You know where I go? I don't like. It's the only place I found in London that like has a consistent good price. There is an
Yeah.
Argentinian steak place in Borough Market, and on the shelves they
Yeah.
sell yerba, but it doesn't look like they sell yerba because it just looks like decoration. And
Got it.
I
Got
was
it.
like, hey, do you sell the mate? And they were like, yeah. I was like, give me three of them.
Oh wow. Okay, I'll make sure to check it out next time I'm there.
I'll drop you a ping for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
Eva, I've been looking forward to this for a while. We were talking to some friends of yours yesterday about like what have we got to ask Eva. You have
Yes.
obviously built fundraising playbooks into this monster of a business, thinking deeply about like what it takes from not just the person, the psychology, the persona of the individual pitching, and the and whatever it is that they've required to do to raise capital and win over customers and investors, but also the application of that, right? What that looks like in a deck. Can you give us some context on you? Can we give us some context on Eva as well?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I came from the investment side of the table. I used to
The
work
dark
for
side.
Exactly. Yes. I used to work for an early stage VC back when I was living in Sydney. They have also lent me to one of their portfolio companies, which is where I got my operator experience. Then I worked for a startup incubator, very briefly for an angel syndicate. And as of last year and now this year, gone out solo and running fundraising playbooks, which is, a business in itself. And my
Mm-hmm.
entire game right now is that I'm going to help you get an audience with anyone that you seek to speak to. And most of the work I've done is I'll help you bring the investors to the table and I'll show you how do you open doors that you thought were previously locked. But this extends itself also to sales and partnerships and BD. So that's all I do.
Basically, if you want to communicate and get the thing you're communicating about, talk to Eva.
Pretty much, yes.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Let's
If you want
get
anyone to respond to you, talk to me.
oh and respond to you. So like buy it.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, let's get into the thick of it. High performance communication is sort of how it's been described, or high stakes communication is how you describe it.
Yeah.
Why do you look at it like that?
Mm. I mean, when you're asking an investor to invest 5 million in your business, then obviously it is high stakes.
Mm-hmm.
When you're selling a product, it is high stakes. And because I operate in the early stage startup space where you might have a limited runway or an increasing cash burn every single month, every single day counts. Every single hour counts, and every single email that you send counts.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think, I often metaphorize fundraising and sales to a game of chess where you can win a game of chess in 8 moves. Equally, you can win it in 130 moves. And it's down to you, which pathway do you go? So my entire thing is that I will show you how do you win it in eight. I will show you like what is the right combination of words and sentences that will get you the results the fastest.
Okay, what are those words and sentences? What is like the single most used word in fundraising playbooks that actually wins the capital?
Hmm. In a nod to your background. Interesting.
Ah,
Yeah, in a nod to your background.
really?
Or yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Or
Why?
I think it's a very, a very human, natural way of showcasing that, hey, I've done some research on you. And humanizing the email.
Hmm.
Another one that's been quite successful for me was, for example, I landed on your profile and I would love to connect some of the dots. Um, and that's where basically
Is
you
it the
can,
connecting the dots bit that actually is the hook?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you can pull out like a number of different things that you found from like different areas of your research around them and actually put it into a bullet points in an email.
Hmm.
And that suddenly is, this is what I've done quite often when I was doing dual outreach, both for fundraising and sales at the same time. So that's usually when we use connecting the dots playbook, as I call it. Another thing that really helps to secure responses. So one of the things that I can do, and I like to call it a gambit, is
Like
that,
the Queen's Gambit in chess.
I've got a lot of chess references here. So if, that usually happens when I'm kind of like 6 or 7 emails further down in an email chain with a prospect,
Hmm.
uh, either sales or an investor, and they're still not responding to you. You have two options. You can just keep on going until they respond, or you do the gambit move, which gets you the replies, but it can also get you like a no.
Tell me about the
Uh,
Gambit. How does this work?
so the fastest and most effective gambit follow-ups that I've done myself were literally just 3 words long, where I would just send an email saying yay or nay. That has gotten me so many replies, like so many.
But is
And
is the goal of that to get an answer, or is the goal of that Gambit to turn that into a
bring
conversation that you could like restart the convo?
Yeah, bring them back across to the table.
Right.
So this is usually what happens once you've already had a response, likely you already had a meeting, maybe you already had a follow-up meeting as well. And now you're stuck in this never-ending loop of following up because everyone is busy. So when I secured one of the event sponsorships that I was doing, that was literally like after I sent this like, hey man, is it a yay or nay? Yeah or nay? Like let's just close it. Let's talk. Let's see what's gonna happen.
And
And more,
if
yeah,
it's either an A or a yay or a nay, so irrespective of the answer, is the goal to get back into that email, back into that response as fast as possible. So like no time
exactly.
wasted, just
Yes.
like as soon
Yeah.
as they answer, go.
Yeah, exactly. Because, if when you're a founder fundraising, oh my God, like fundraising is a full-time job. And for every single bit of time that you're fundraising and that you're sending emails to investors, you're not doing sales. Your
Hmm.
business is growing. And then this becomes this classic chicken and egg situation because investors expect you to keep hitting the higher metrics. So without metrics, without what I call your ammo, what are you going to do? Right? What are you going to say in the next email? And this is like one of the tactics that I do for my founders is that remember that whatever you send in that first cold email, like all of the beautiful bullet points of achievements and traction and metrics you're going to outline, you have to remember that you've just set yourself a benchmark that you have
Mm.
over. So actually, you might want to take some of it out. Don't play all of your cards at once because what are you going to say in a follow-up?
That's so interesting. You know what this reminds me of? The Silicon Valley episode where they're talking about like we're pre-rev. So like no one has an idea of what revenue is because you'll constantly be benchmarked against that revenue. It's very much the same.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And with one of my clients, we had this running joke that sometimes when you're speaking to an investors, it's kind of like being questioned by the police.
Yep.
And if it say can and will be used against you. So I always, advise founders to be quite wary if they make any forward-looking statements, such as, oh, we're in conversations with this potential client, and this will be the ACV of like 60K more to our ARR. It's going great, it's going great. Well, they're gonna tell you, cool, come back to us when you've closed them. Or worse, later on, they're gonna ask you, how's that conversation going? And like, you better hope it went well. You better hope it went well.
What is the so it feels like the plays that founders have to make when they're communicating with investors or just communicating in general feels very much like American football. It's not fluid. It's like it's very targeted. It's very tactical when it comes to raising capital. What's your favorite play?
Poker. A lot of it is like poker. A lot of it is where, yeah, you know, like I've seen a number of founders execute some bluffs quite
Mm-hmm.
successfully. And I know of fundraisers, that's not my advice, but I know of fundraisers that have been executed on what was then a bluff that later on became a success
Right.
and became reality. But at the time of the first outreach, you know, it wasn't quite there.
Can you give
And
us
I
a flavor of what the bluff was? I don't want to know names. Can you give us some context? Like, what did that look like?
Well, like I said earlier, with the, you know, like usually like a future partnership, future client, a future big success, right? And I think this is probably the hardest balance to be struck in a pitch deck
Mm-hmm.
because half of what you're doing in a pitch deck is, yes, you are reporting progress and metrics, but then half of what you're doing is you're showcasing the vision
Mm-hmm.
and you're showcasing the potential future. And you know, I do that literally in the span of emails as well. So I think it's very interesting to see how founders find that balance, and you know, it's those who can find it in a smart way. Those are usually the ones that secure funding.
When we're playing the game of behavioral psychology with investors, do you come out the gate storming, very aggressive, very arrogant, or is there actually a thoughtful, more conversational approach?
It's the second one.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolutely the
But I
second one.
always like you hear the narrative that like investors love their startups or they love their investments as like they are like I am the shit.
So, yes, and there's a little bit more nuance to that, I would
Talk
add.
to me. Tell me.
Yeah, so I think the biggest factor that you have to achieve is to show non-desperation
Mm-hmm.
for that, you know, like some of my most successful, you know, fundraisers with founders is when we reached out to investors and we said, hey, investor name, we're actually not raising because we've just raised. But I looked up your portfolio, I looked up your strategy, and I think it's quite aligned. Would be good to put each other on each other's radar. You're leveling the playing field. You're leveling a conversation because, like, also remember that, you know, startups can exist without investors, but investors cannot exist without startups.
Mm-hmm.
And a, a lot of it comes down to leveling up the tone to showcase that this is a peer-to-peer conversation. It's a
Mm-hmm.
peer-to-peer conversation on the same level. And also, interestingly, so when I partner with founders, how I work with them on a fractional basis is that I enter their email together with them and I send emails as them. So I'm the email ghostwriter superpower, which interestingly has seen me signing myself off in an emails with both male and female names.
Mm-hmm.
And I've not really seen big differences in the response rates. But I what did see is that if we talk about the differences in the level of funding that like men and women receive and so on, I did spot that a lot of female founders use different language and have that tendency to ask to use more of a language that is more permissory or submissive, you could call it, and a little
Mm-hmm.
bit whereas males typically would use a more leading, confident, dominant language. And I would love for someone to conduct a global wise study on this, maybe myself in the future, on how does this correlate to the differences in funding. It's the language. It's not necessarily what your name is. It's not necessarily what your gender
But
is. I
it's the
think.
language that they're using in the emails and in
I think.
person.
I think so. Yeah, because
Wow.
like honestly, Virat, what I've been doing is that, you know, like I've been working across all levels of founders, like pre-seed, seed, series A, B, C,
Mm-hmm.
you know, male, female, foreign, native English, anything, anything. And, you know, I help to achieve instant response rates across all of those levels. Sometimes for businesses that had zero traction, zero metrics, nothing. It's the language. And that's what fascinates me because if the right words can unlock millions in funding, if the right words can unlock human connection, then I think this is as close to meritocracy as it can get.
Because you've worked across different stages, pre-seed all the way up to Series A, right? Have you seen how the language has changed? Or in the best founders that you've worked with that consistently been able to raise funding, has the language changed? Has the tone changed?
Mm, it changes as the business matures.
Right. So they get
Yeah.
validation, the business is working, and therefore, like it can be seen as a peer, and therefore the language changes.
Exactly, the
Right.
language change and so on. And look, this goes so far more beyond the realm of emails. When you're on a call with someone, when you're in a meeting with someone, the verbiage, the language, the words that you use, the more confident language you use, the more confident words you choose to use, you will be perceived differently, or business will be perceived differently. And that's why if you're a founder and you're going to an event, let's say, Slush is coming, right? You're going to Slush and you're speaking to a few of investors, and an investor is going to ask you, how's your fundraising going? Right? And
Right.
you're gonna, it's going, it's fundraising, it's tough, it's tough. Never say that. Never.
Never say fundraising is tough. Because
Never
it's just a
say
game, isn't it? It's
that.
just a means to an end.
Should never, never, ever say it and in front of
Do
an
you
investor.
do you see that from a outside of just fundraising point of view as well? You should always keep the act up.
Um, I've seen it personally in my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen it a lot of the times personally in my
Does
life
it
that
work?
I think you know what, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be surprised if like a number of years further down the line, like 20 years from now, 30 years from now, there's going to be more studies in the metaphysics on
Mhm.
it, on what happens when you say something out loud. I think it's going to be a fascinating field of where some discoveries are going to be made because from my own personal life, there's a massive difference of when you talk about your successes and when you talk about what works versus when I focus some like a little bit more of like, oh, this doesn't work and this doesn't work and I'm complaining about that. So I did see some really visceral examples on how well my business and my life went the moment I started to speak more positively about what's happening. Um, versus, when you just, and this is basic law of attraction as well, like from like the more spiritual side of it. But I just think there's not yet enough scientific research on this to be able to build a full playbook on this. But yeah, in a more business sense, if we bring it down back into the ground reality of an email and fundraising,
Yep.
that's where I was able to build some playbooks for that.
Interesting.
Mhm.
I hear from Daniel over at Shipshape that you have analyzed the amount of characters that are required to sit in vertical in an email in the subject line that
Ah, yes.
consistently generates a response. How
Yeah.
many characters is that? How many
Okay.
words?
Yes. Yeah. 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 So, it's Apple email, Gmail, and Outlook that
Yeah.
cut you off at a different point in time.
They all cut
In
you off at different points. I always thought it was the same, like same
No,
number.
no, no.
Really?
It's slightly different, and it also depends on the screen resolution that you have.
Because
It
you've
also
got like 6.3 versus 5.7, and you got the double,
exactly,
you've got
exactly,
the flip
exactly.
phones these days.
So I've researched all of that. I've used ChatGPT to help me like research the most common scenarios. And basically the first 35 words in an email are the most pivotal. And that is also the shortest cutoff point before your email preview disappears in Outlook. So that means subject line plus the first line of your email.
Hmm.
This is the first 35 words. This is the space where you make your first impression. So if you start your cold email with, my name is Eva, I'm the CEO co-founder of a startup called, forget about it.
Hmm.
So like, and when I was at Slush last year, I've speed walked and talked with close to about 50 investors to ask them about their behavior around cold emails. And they literally told me like, yeah, if they see something like that, straight delete.
No
Do you know?
way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They wouldn't even open it. So, I think you have to utilize that space to your advantage. You have to be able to say something as substantial as, hi, investor name. I read the report coming from one of your LPs and I saw what they said about X.
Hmm.
It resonates with what we're building because Y.
Why? Interesting. You know what I've really liked using at the moment? I've liked hi X ask in highlighted yellow, like second line down. That ask has to be within 15 words. And then it's underneath that white space. And then you can get to more context because then they can answer the question in real time. It's like, oh, I've made my answer. It's a yes or a no. The hyperlinks are there. Click, click.
Yeah.
I found that's converted 90% of
Yes.
the time.
Yeah. In sales, I've also found that people naturally want to do two things,
Hmm.
and it's either to demonstrate expertise or correct any inaccuracies.
Ooh.
So I found that skilled salespeople can leverage both, sometimes even at the same time. And in fundraising as well, what I found is that, because investors are so busy and us humans in general, we are hardwired to make shortcuts,
Hmm.
mental shortcuts to help us with the cognitive load and help us process the world a little bit faster. These days, oh my God, we live in such an overstimulated economy, and world in general. I think every single day we ingest about 34 gigabytes of information,
Hmm.
which means that when it comes to the number of stimuli you experience as you go about your day, 10,000 to 20,000 stimuli per day. Compared to 1700s, I think that was like 500 stimuli per day. And structurally, our brains are the same. They're not that much different. So we're constantly trying to make shortcuts and help us understand the world faster. So take all of those concepts, right? Like big behavioral, like human concepts, and squeeze it down into an investor email. What I found is that if you can go on a VC website, browse through their portfolio, and find three companies that you are similar to in some different aspects, maybe you're doing something with a similar ICP, but you're not a competitor. Maybe you're doing like a solution that has something in relation to another portfolio company. You find three portfolio companies from that VC and you send that VC an email. Hi, investor name, between company A, company B, and company C from your portfolio, we sit alongside those lines whilst also not a competitor to any of them. Would love to
Hmm.
chat. And what I found is that psychologically, it's so much easier if you can give an investor, if you can describe your company in terms of three other companies that this investor already knows well,
Hmm.
you reduced a massive cognitive load for them to understand what your startup is about, what problem are you trying to solve, and like what's the competitive advantage even.
Eva, I want to know what is your favorite playbook out of all the playbooks?
Mm, 6 degrees of separation playbook.
Give me an overview of that.
Yeah. So it's the one where I found you can really combine warm outreach with cold outreach.
Hmm.
And that's where I would usually map out my network. Let's say I'm trying to reach, A16Z, right? I would go around my network and figure out like who knows A16Z, how do they know them, what can they say about them and so on. And obviously the goal here of this game is to, get an introduction. And sometimes might happen for like a train of people, so literally 6 degrees of separation. But if that doesn't work, this is where you can bring it into a cold email. And this is what I did to get a response from Richard Branson, right-hand man of his like senior leadership, because my email to him started by saying, I think it was, hi, first name, in a true 6 degrees of separation fashion, I've recently connected with,
Does
and
that
then about
actually work?
it worked. I got a response the next day.
No
Yeah.
way.
And I've just outlined the different people that we have in common that we spoke to and what they advised me, what they told me, why they thought that I should speak to this person. And then I've put it all in an email. It's the principle from Show Me You Know Me. right?
Right.
Sam McKenna, show me you know me. And she says this is something that I love. When it comes to a subject line, the subject line should not make absolutely any sense to anyone else but just the recipient of your email. If you can craft
Mm.
a subject line like this, that's how you know that you've nailed it. And my personal favorite subject line that has been getting me some of the best responses is comment on your article. And that's when you
And
find,
what? That's it. Nothing else.
yeah, comment on your article. Because psychologically, we do not know if a comment is positive or negative.
Hmm.
That's one. And if
Do you
if
not feel
an
it's clickbaity, or is that the point? It evokes a very specific knee-jerk type reaction to, oh, either open or don't.
yeah, yeah, and I've tested it, and yeah, the comment on your article emails have gotten quicker opening rate. And
Does
and
that
then you
only work cold?
No, I think that works warm as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, it works warm. And then you start the email by saying like, hi name, I read your article on X and what you said about Y resonated because that's precisely how we've built our product and it's been a hit. It has resulted in these following metrics. And I went over your portfolio between A, B, and C. We sit alongside those lines, whilst also not a competitor of them. I would love to connect and explore what might be possible.
I want to know
Yeah.
before we let you go,
Yeah.
who's on your Mount Rushmore of like top 4 founders? It's
Wow.
something we ask all the guests on the show. Like it's slightly different based on who you are, but in your case, I want top 4.
Okay. Tim Ellis,
Hmm.
founder of Relativity Space. I like this story in particular because he has cold emailed Mark Cuban and he raised on the back of a cold email from Mark Cuban. Um, I mean, in terms of most successful, I think it would have to be Sam Altman, even though I might not agree with, like certain ideologies but like success wise, absolutely yes. Um, hmm.
If we're going off cold emails and outreach, like Massa has to be up there for you,
Yes.
right? How can
Yeah.
you walk into a room of like the Saudi investment fund and walk out with a blank check?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard the story. I've heard the story. So yeah, that's the third phase on there. And the fourth one, gosh, I don't know, actually. After the fourth one, I'm gonna leave it blank. I'm gonna have to have,
Oh,
yeah.
you're gonna have
Yes.
to come back to us on that.
Yeah, there you go. That's a cliffhanger for you.
Evo, this is an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for breaking down all of the plays for us. We gotta do a deep dive on like every single one. Like, how
I'd
does
love
this all work?
I mean, I've got 36 different playbooks on my platform, so that's
Where
that's
can people
that's
find you?
fundraisingplaybooks.com.
Love it. Eva, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for the time.
Thanks, Viraj. I appreciate it.
Ciao.